Hello, everyone, and welcome to the good stuff. We finally made it through the summer slop of the 2024 League of Legends season, what happens every season, and are now into the best of the playoffs. Welcome to Power Spike. It's your boy dGon alongside Dom and Yamato to break down the happenings of the last week across the LPL, LCK, LEC, and LCS. As G2 play with their food and get dangerously close to losing. LCS is a one-team region. KT can't win the big game, and in the LPL, maybe a surprise, but maybe not because they were the world finalists. Who knows? How was your week, guys? How are you, Dom?
It's good, man. That's one of the hardest days that we had streaming. There was one day there where we started at 1 a.m. and ended at like 7 p.m. or something like this, and we were just streaming the whole time. It was just we straight up just turned on the stream and we're going for I think it was like 16.5 hours, something like that. As the at least TL gave us some mercy and 300 thieves, but we got through that day, so the other day should be easier.
You guys, you also went full goblin mode because the day before you had the 5 series. Because I abandoned that series, the NIG, the NIG Dig series, because I
did it on 4 hours sleep. I did it on 4 hours sleep. The 16-hour stream on 4 hours sleep. Let's fucking go.
Why did you have 4 hours sleep?
And how many that's literally just the schedule, bro. Like, what do you mean? There's just no time to sleep. LCS ends like it was a best of 5, NRG Dignitas. And then I don't know, LCK starts at 1 a.m. That's just it. That it just is the schedule.
How quick do you fall asleep when you go to bed at like 7 p.m. like just later? Like
I think it was actually like 8. I mean, the thing is like I probably slept maybe like 4 hours 30 minutes, but yeah, like you go downstairs, brush your teeth, go in bed, fall asleep at like maybe like 8:15, then wake up 12:45 to get ready to stream at 1. I mean, yeah, that's just the schedule, man. It's brutal.
Well, appreciate both of y'all for grinding through it and showing up today. I've had a little bit. Just we were talking about it off stream a little bit. The off season is coming up, and for the first time in a long time, off season for me will I guess for like the day-to-day grind will end after LCK. Then we prep for Worlds, we'll watch Worlds, but that there's like a little bit of a break. Do you guys, what is your normal off season? Like, what is the schedule of the off season? What do you do? Let's start with you, Yamato.
Honestly, I'm trying to think because it's always kind of weird, It's like I've never done a content creation year into content creation because last year I did the content creation, but then all of a sudden, like the moment World was going on, I was talking with Casey and then I signed the contract. So I've never had like a real off season. It's like when I'm working, when I was like in seasons and competing, always after Worlds, I legit have like 2-3 weeks of like insane burnout where I just sleep 16 hours a day. I'm like sick and feverish, and then I'm back at it. And then it's like you begin to plan the next contract. But this time around, I have no clue. Like I'm thinking, should I play Valorant? Should I play League? Because I don't want to like lose momentum. Like I think I'll go crazy if I slow down at any point in time. I'll be like, oh shit. I see the other people streaming, they're gonna fuck me up. Like I need to keep chasing. I need to present something because I'm not there yet,
Yeah. What about you, Dom?
I'm actually the exact opposite. I have literally the opposite approach where every time Worlds ends, that's normally like when I peak as a content creator, and then I try to kill my stream as hard as possible in the next like 2 months because I hate having like high view count. Like I'm just like somebody who gets one guide and stuff. I just don't like streaming to a lot of viewers. Like it's super annoying. So like having like if you get to a point where you're just battling your chat 24/7, it just isn't fun. Like that is just not what you want to stream. So I literally try to disappear and kill my stream as hard as possible in like the next 2-3 months, and then just like after that, go back into the next season.
Yeah, so we got DJ Khaled here, bro. The suffering from success.
Oh, it's not success. It's not success. Like I don't know. I feel like at that point, just having more viewers and having people that just watch you but hate you, it's never worth it. I actually always hated having like hate watchers. I used to have a ton when I played the game all the time. When I started co-streaming, then my viewers started liking me. Like the majority of my viewers like me, but it's like when you grow your stream, it is a horrible time. That's why I respect
he flashed at 12 minutes, so it was still down. Duh.
No, it's not that. It's literally just people like arguing over things that don't make sense with like no information to like back it up. It's like you get into like the most weird arguments. Like we saw it with Mad Lions recently, like the arguments that people make where it's like like I mentioned, for example, Mad Lions has 36% win rates in spring. Like that's, I mean, they have like right now, I think it's like what, for the whole year, I think they're probably at like 42% win rate, which is, I think, the lowest win rate out of any third seed going to Worlds in like the history of the region. I don't think there's ever been a time where you could have 42% win rate and go as a third seed. Before you would have needed to like 0-18 spring into like massive recovery into summer. But even then, you'd have to win multiple best of fives in order to qualify. It's like one of the most freak occurrences we've ever seen. And then people just start like saying, it's like, so since when did win rate matter in the LEC? Like, what is this new argument? I'm like, yeah, you're like trying to like win the games that you're playing in the LEC. Like, it's just, you get into the most retarded arguments that I just don't feel like I've done it for so long, and sure, you can just ignore the arguments and just let them fucking fester, and then everyone just like believes it, and it's like, oh, the streamer isn't addressing it, we must be right, like this type of shit. You can let it fester, but I just find it like super fucking annoying. Like I'm generally a hater. Like I hate the league community as a whole. Like I don't know if people understand this about me, but I generally just detest the people that are existing. And like when I saw the reaction to like the Faker situation, when I saw the thread yesterday on the Carsey interview, we have a thread on the Carsey interview. It's all positive. Then the next day, somebody just posts like a title that he probably just copied from a Twitter post that was translated to French. The guy actually translated most of our interview, but this guy just copied a couple lines from it, put it as the title. Suddenly everyone's flaming. Do they give credit? No, they call it a Twitch interview. It's just like I don't know, bro. Like I look at everything and it's like, yeah, I mean I play solo queue. I still fucking hate the players I play with. Like I just hate this fucking community. So like I just don't like being a part of it. But it is what it is. It pays fucking well. What can you do?
Yeah, you're still one of the leaders of the space, and people will always look to you for your opinion. How about that?
I mean, like I don't know what to say. Like, should I just lie and be like, I'm so blessed to be a part of the League of Legends community? It's like I like the people that I interact with. I like the people that watch me. I just don't like the general community. Like when I see these random like Twitter threads, these I don't know. I just see the general opinions on stuff. It's kind of just like the internet in general, bro. I think I actually just dislike the internet in general. Like I see all this stuff. It just feels like very fucking, I don't know. I just hate it.
That's what I want to say, bro. Like Reddit and Twitter, like, bro. Since I told you the last time we were streaming together, I was like, yo, I don't use Twitter. I tweeted, and it just made my life worse. I started arguing with people, like big fucking chains. So I just started arguing with people. I opened Reddit to see like the posts about the sack down. I'm like, bro, I think whenever there's too many people, way too many people in the same spot, like Twitter or Reddit, it's like in the past Reddit was all right, but now it's like that subreddit is like 5 million people and just people vomiting. It's like just latching on to whatever is like popping a little bit because people don't want to put energy into making their own thoughts. It's just people don't want to.
I get triggered at the fucking at like Yamato's tweets. Like when Yamato tweets and then I see the responses to Yamato's tweets, I get triggered. Like Yamato will tweet something about like, oh, Faker is having a bad series. That was like the series where Faker like banged his head on the wall or whatever. And it's like you can see literally the time at which he posted this. Like it just says like post it at like, and then like the next after that game, the clip goes viral of him banging his head on the wall. Then people are like, not the time to be criticizing Faker, Yamato. It's like just fucking go to Humstream, see the first thing he says. That's probably what I want to say too. There you go. That's all I'll say.
Here you go. This is mine earlier. Greetings. As a fan of the LoL KT roster team, I would humbly request that you and everyone else stop predicting them to win anything. We know how it goes, and the more people play, the more that people expect from them, the more they'll lose. Please reconsider your votes. So I messaged them the other day or yesterday. So I didn't pick KT, and they still lost against T1. What does that mean? I'm gonna let him stew on that one.
Oh wow, you respond to the DMs. I'm not at that point. I'm not at that level, dGon. I can't respond to the DMs.
I pick them out. I can't respond to all of them, but I pick them out. I'm like, hey, look, if you're gonna come at me with like stupid energy, I'll let you just stew in your stupid. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Bro, you guys
all
have
right.
DM requests open. You guys are wild, dude. They are wild.
No. I'm not Yamato famous. That's all, and I'm not Dom crazy. So there you go.
I have the verified DMs. So you gotta pay. You gotta show that you at least have enough money to give Elon $100 in order to fucking DM me. There you go.
There you go. Okay, you get the rich crazies.
Yeah. And I just get a lot of people like, hey, Dom, do you want to partner with us for this new crypto project? And I'm like, what is it? They're like, it's just a rug pull. Like, I'm like, all right, well, I'm good. Like,
well, does your offer end in illions? Because then maybe. let's take a look at the LCS All-Pro, as it went pretty standard, I'd say, with Impact, APA Young, and Core all getting the nod here, with Blabber getting it over Inspired. did fall all the way to third, all of FlyQuest the rest in third. Just the jungle swap here. You like it? Is this the way it was supposed to be with Inspired second, Blabber first here, Dom?
I mean, I still believe that Inspired is the best jungler in the league. Like, it's what I say every time. Like, when I look at him play the game, like, I think that he is the best jungler in the LCS right now. But I can understand why Blabber got it. I think what Inspired said during an interview makes sense. I mean, what people don't realize is that Blabber was playing with essentially winning lanes the entire time. His job is so much easier than if you consider some of like the absolute horrors that Inspired played. Like, there's so many games. There's a game that I had a clip about recently where I just lost my mind, where I went back to it. It was from the first time that FlyQuest played versus NRG, and this was the game where FlyQuest had a Karthus invade, like their Karthus is invading a Zyra. Inspired takes the enemy bot side, goes back to his bot side, covers a dive, and then while they know that there's like no top camps for the Zyra has no bot camps. There's no bot camps on the side of the Karthus side as well. So on FlyQuest side, they don't have any of the quadrants up that are near them. The only thing Zyra could do is be sitting there. They literally have a ward and see him. The Zyra just walks back and just kills Busio. Busio just like flashes in, tries to like flash combo the like Leona under tower. He goes for like a Q flash, headbutts the guy back, tries to get him into turret range, doesn't get it, flash on. Like, it was just like, oh my god, please. They just die right there, and yeah, people are just hinting. I feel like C9, they're pretty inactive as a team, but also like they don't do anything that really fucks Blabber over ever. Like, it's very rare that people are just randomly inting in the early game where junglers are trying to figure out their pathing and you know, play the map in a way that makes sense for them.
Yamato, final thoughts here on LCS. We don't need to touch on it too much.
Nah, bro. I think this All-Pro is blessed, bro. I like it. I think that I have no complaints, bro. No complaints. Very solid. We could just jump to the next one, brother. Go.
All right, second one here. LCK went ahead and
Here
threw in their votes here.
I have issues.
Oh, let's get into it. Where do you have the issues for this one? As we had the all Gen G roster, all Hanwha Life Esports roster, and then a nice little mixture of T1, KT, and D+ for all third team.
I think on my end, like in terms of how I would prioritize, I think the names that are involved, like probably the only name I would like to remove is like probably like Doran. You know, like I think Doran has been ass this split. Like I would probably like put in like Dudu. You know, like I appreciate a player that like stands out and does well and is like you know, doing it in a team that is not performing always. You know, I think Dudu is a player that deserves to be on like a better team. I think Kingen has had like a very, very good split. Like his Aurora games like stood out. And like in terms of moving like players around, I think Owner is a player that deserves to be higher in terms of how he dragged T1 the majority of the splits. I think Owner, I think for me, I try to think about it in a way where I try to remember what actually happened and occurred at the beginning of the split, because it's so easy to be like last month biased. And I do recall like Canyon being good in the beginning, but then just having like a massive fall off. So in my mind, it's like in terms of what I would want to move around, it's like pace I would do lower. Aiming would be number one for me in the AD position. I would probably put Owner first, and Canyon and Pace lower. I think those are like the biggest like travesties, if anything. I think BDD belongs for sure. Trying to remember what else was going on there. Let me just scroll through real quick. King was good. Yeah, I think the names are solid. Just the ordering of it all is just very, very strange to me. I think that's the one that is weird. Like maybe you can touch on this, dGon, but what is going on? Like what are people afraid of? Are people just afraid of like not conforming and just you're gonna get, you know, blasted? Or what's happening?
Yeah, it is interesting because, you know, you look at the global votes compared to, and every year this happens, you look at the global votes compared to the Korean votes, and Korean votes are like, this team is the best, therefore all their players must be the best. Rarely do you find it unless it's
Like,
super standout performances.
is no one in the Korean community being like, hey, this is like a pretty fucking bad way to go about things, because like this is just such it's such a stupid approach to All-Pro votes. Why even have All-Pro votes at that point? What is the point? What is the point of the All-Pro votes if we're just giving it to the team? Like, we already can see the fucking standings. Like, I have eyes. I watched LCK. I can look at the standings and be like, oh, team got first, that one got like, I can do that already. So what is the point of having the All-Pro votes always match the teams?
Yeah, and this time it's less so the cast difference and more about the teams. So a lot of the casters did put Kingin over in second, and then Doran usually got like a third nod. He did get a couple of second nods there, but like so many of the coaches and players put Doran over at second or Zeka over at second. Actually, most of the Korean cast put Zeka as second. I personally had BDD. A lot of others had BDD there, some Showmaker. But most of the time, when we go down, it's like the teams and the players kind of vote along those lines. And then it felt like the media also voted along those lines as well. Oh, no, the media voted a lot of Kingin. So it was like, it's usually skewed by the players, and it feels like they're going based off of results and maybe the way that they are perceived. I'm not 100% sure, but it usually goes along lines of not wanting to be flamed, and so you just vote based off of ranking here, Dom.
Yeah, I don't know. So then let's just not have the votes anymore then, because it's fucking worthless. Like, the whole idea of these votes is you're supposed to be giving these players accolades so that when you go back in their careers at the end, you can be like, how good of a player were they? You know, like in the NBA, it's like, oh, 10 all-pro first teams. Like, that actually matters, right? Like, if you're actually all-pro first team, you're like first NBA team, or you have like a certain amount of all-star appearances, like that is something that people actually take seriously. But in terms like this, it's like, okay, so it just means that you're on a good team, but it doesn't actually matter when you're evaluating the player's career. Like, you have to then go back and then watch their games because you know that the awards are bullshit going in. So I've always had an issue with it. I just think that we already know, we can already see the standings. So if you want to just vote based off the standings, then it just has zero value. Like, there's just nothing that I'm gaining out of it. Like, I think the whole point of All-Pro is supposed to be that you're taking players that are not going to win, but are playing well, and you recognize them for like how good they played. Like, that's what I think All-Pro like should be for. It's to recognize those players. Yeah, to have like a player like Dudu get a shout, or have players that, like, for example, Aiming was the hard carry of Dom 1. It's weird how people view Aiming. It's like, because like he like was a PDF in 2019, then you can't say anything good about him. Like, there's the threads like, well, like, you know what? But if the league is going to allow a player to play, like, I am just going to analyze the quality of that player within the league. I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, but this guy did some, this guy is not a fucking like good person, so I can't recognize him. It's like, no, like, if I am watching a league and people are in the league, I'm evaluating only their skill, not who they are as a person. That does not factor even like 1% into like my, you know, my rating of them when it comes to like All-Pro and stuff like that. Like, I mean, also, I'm used to fucking NFL. Like, we had fucking murderers playing that shit. We have like rapists play in the NFL. Like, you have fucking horrible people play in the NFL. When you evaluate their play, you're not like, oh man, like Aaron Hernandez, like this guy was he was a murderer, so he wasn't that good of a tight end. It's like, oh, he was a great tight end, and he was also a fucked up, horrible like murderer. Like, that is just kind of how you view it. It's completely separate, your evaluation of them as a person and them as a player. So I don't know if like that factors into the Aiming thing. I see on social media, like, if you say anything good about Aiming, like Cadrils just gets blasted because he's like a Dom 1 fan, and then he said like, oh, Aiming is really good. And the people were like, what the fuck? Like, don't you know that he did this? It's like, yeah. Like I just don't see the, so, okay, so then what? So, okay, so then he's bad? Like, because people do this all the time. Like, I mean, we talk about all the social media platforms. Whenever a player is hated for something, like Inspired's a great example of this. He plays at an excellent level, but he's hated. So then people are like, we'll just throw in, oh, and he's not that good. People just downplay their skill when they're hated. I mean, this is just like the social media way. So why do we have to do that with Aiming too? Like, I don't know. To me, it's just it's just very weird to like have to evaluate things and then be like scared of other outside forces instead of just being like, hey, as somebody who watched LCK, I should just be evaluating how good the LCK players were this split. Rate each one 1 to 3. That's it.
part of me was thinking like I think in NFL, yeah, in NFL they have, oh, you're a Pro Bowl player, so like you're an all-star, and then they have the All-Pro team, right? And that's like just the top 11 on one side, on offense, the top 11 on defense. So it's like because we have way more players in League of Legends or way more players in football, in American football, than you do in League of Legends. What if we just shortened it? But that doesn't really fix the problem. Then they just pick the top team, because the closest part that looks like an All-Pro vote is the third team All-Pro, where we have 3 teams represented. But that's because everyone voted, Hanwha Life as second team and Gen G as first team. The only votes that weren't first team Gen G were Gen G, because they had to vote other players. And
did you see some of those votes? Did you see one of their coaches went straight? They're like first, second, third team. It was all Hanwha Life, then all Dom1, then all T1. Like, it was like, nice, man. You really put a lot of effort into this. Like, you take your job seriously. I just think that shouldn't even be a vote. Like, if the teams have to think they have to vote like that, then just don't give them a vote and have like the casters and media and stuff voted. I don't know what to do about it, but it just feels like. So, for example, if Gen G actually has the best team in all 5, so not only are they just like the best team, they're number 1 in the standings. They play League of Legends the best. If they also have the 5 best players, they have the best player in every single role, and they have like the best coach, right? Then why am I even going to watch the LCK? Like, why? Like, what's the point of even watching? Like, what? You know who's going to win? It was like last year, right? It was all T1 first team, all. What was it? Was it all T1 first team in spring? I believe it was, right? That was the split where it was all T1 first team, and then they ended up losing. Like, I don't know, bro. It just seems like it's just crazy to me that's how we do things. Like, what's the point of watching if it's actually that cut and dry? Yeah, that's what it was. So 2023, the split that they ended up losing to Gen G, it was all T1 first team, and then it was just like, then they started mixing it because the scores were closer. In summer, it was all KT first team.
Yeah,
it was all KT first team. It's like, wait, like, who watched KT and Gen G that split where KT was 17-1, Gen G is like 16-2 or something like that? Who watches that split and is like, yeah, Gen G can never win? What? Like, it's so like, we're saying that every KT player is bad. It's just, we always do this. It's literally, they just always do this, and it just makes me like, at this point, I just don't consider it. Like, when it comes out, I expect it. Like, these are all my complaints that I have with it, and these are the complaints I'll have every single split. But I just accept it. Like, I know why they do it. I understand like the culture. I just think that it makes no sense for All-Pro. Like, I think that's a great way to like to build teams, to have that like collectivistic approach. But when it comes to voting on All-Pro, that's a fucking horrible way to do it.
Yeah, maybe the players vote weighs less, or the team vote weighs less, but they're the ones that are in scrims or the ones on stage. But it looks like a clear divide this year based off of the players' votes, the analyst votes, and then once you get to second team, the media votes. And we always have a good laugh about the player of the game media votes every match, and it showed a little bit here. I'm looking at my casters votes. Very proud of everyone. Everyone did great with their votes.
Yep. The English casters are always the most based when it comes to this. Like, the English casters actually like feel like they vote based on what happened, as opposed to standings only. It just makes me feel like people don't watch their own league. Like, that's how I feel. I'm like, do you watch this league? Like, you watch this league and you think that like Doran was like the second best top laner over the course of the league, when he was just like, he was the one that was having the ints all the time. Like, that was like the whole thing about Hanwha Life. It's like, fucking Doran's inting again. Oh, Doran, like, what are you doing? Like, Peanut had a great fucking split. Like, I think Peanut's All-Pro first team, and I think that Doran is like, I wouldn't have him third. That's all I'm saying. I would have King in second for sure. Like, I think that King and
maybe Zeus.
Yeah, maybe Zeus. I mean, I like the doo-doo shout out.
Yeah, the doo-doo shout out. Clear.
Yeah. Clear is a player. Clear's a player that like, it's very hard because Clear was like kind of bad at the beginning and then he was like bad at the end, but he had like this middle section, like where they went on that win streak. When Sandbox went on that win streak, Clear was playing extremely well in most games, so I think that should count for something. But yeah, I don't know. Whatever. We've covered it enough. It is what it is.
I just before we get ourselves back on track a little bit, I just got DM'd by that person I read their that I read the DM about. They just messaged me back. I was like, hey, maybe it was your fault, right? Basically, I said that. And they go, maybe it was us KT fans all along. Maybe we were the problem, ... I still choose to think it's Pony's fault for predicting KT Gen G final somehow. Pony is one of the Korean casters. It's like, ooh, almost change. We're almost there. Oh, the delusion continues. All
I
right.
like it.
All right. Well, those were all pro votes. Let us know what you think about the All Pro here for LCS and LCK. Where would you have liked to have seen some of those votes? Let us know in the comments below. Now it's time to remind you about one of our fantastic partners here on Power Spike and across the LFN network. It is, again, one of the products that your boy uses because let me tell you, it's been difficult here in Korea as I've started to adjust my life to find certain things. And this thing has been very hard to find because a lot of the time when Korean males, I would say males, go about looking for products to trim their face, well, they don't usually like the little gruff. So you only find razors. So the hardest thing to find has been finding maybe a shaver to help your boy out in certain regions that might be taboo. Not the case here with our friends over at Manscaped. They've had you covered with the Weed Whacker. But not only that, everyone loves a nice little head rub, right? On your head, of course. And the leaders of male grooming at Manscaped are spicing things up with the newest thing. It's the scalp buffer. Yeah, that's right. The scalp buffer. Let's break on down why you need to add this to your hair care routine. First things first, the nice little silicone bristles. They're antibacterial, 100%. No more germs hitching a ride on your head. The bristles gently exfoliate the scalp, and the product helps reduce flaking for all you dry head knuckleheads caused by dry skin and buildup. And one of the coolest features it has is that it's designed to stimulate blood flow to your hair follicles. That's right. Just in case you didn't know, increased blood flow equals healthier hair. And then the bristles enhance shampoo penetration for more foam and less product use. It's not just about feeling good. A better lather means a better cleaning power. And simply put, the scalp buffer is your scalp's secret weapon. Its antibacterial silicone bristles keep your scalp healthy, maximizes shampoo performance, gives you a soothing massage, kicks bacteria to the curb, and stores it away like a champ. Your hair routine just got a serious upgrade. So make sure you take your scalp from zero to hero with the scalp buffer from our friends over at Manscaped. So get 20% off with free code and free shipping with code LFN. That's right. It's LFN. I'm triple checking. LFN at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code LFN at Manscaped. There you go, guys. Trust the ones that focus on the hair in the sensitive spots. Thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. That's a read and a half. There was a lot of penetration and innuendo in there, and I love that shit. I live for that shit.
Nice. Nice.
All right. Now, time for someone who I guess needs to take a little shampoo and reset. That's Cloud9 because they had the opportunity. Worlds was there. It was for the taking. And not that we're too worried, but now they definitely have a chance where they might not go to Worlds. It's time for Fraud Alert, and Cloud9's on it. C9 had the opportunity against FlyQuest to knock them out, well, knock them down to the lower bracket and push their world dreams for yet another week, a really tense week. But instead, they dropped the ball and aren't able to get it done. So where do we see this Cloud9 roster? This was the team that was supposed to step up, make it on through. Thanatos coming on in. Wonder Boy from D+. My boy Chronicler has been giving him the stamp certified, ready to go seal of approval. When we take a look at their failure this last series, why is it Yamato? And then we'll start going into the fraudulency scale after that. Their fraudulency scale of world's contender. Are they, if the idea is that they're a world's contender, but now they might not go.
Qualify, you mean, or to win?
To qualify. Bar lower here.
Now, my man, Cloud9, they are so North American. Well, they're so North American, and what I mean by that, it's like when I think of the North America of old, when I think of like when Team Liquid dominated with Double Lift and Code JJ and so forth, it was always this this method of just playing very, very inactive, playing very, very stable lanes, and then hoping that whatever you bring to the table in the final fight is going to be good enough for you to win the game. And I think you can see that clearly in FlyQuest's approach. It's like they saw C9 as a team that is largely inactive. They play around objectives, they can stabilize lanes, and then they hope that they make it through the door. And I think that in the past, this was always a very, very winning concept in the LCS. And I'm trying to tie it together with what information we have available at hand. This is like the return of Reaper. Reaper was there during the era, right? He was running the C9 that lost against those teams that were built this way. I just feel like it's very, very outdated in terms of how they approach things. I think in terms of how they progress the game when it comes to contesting new to waves and then, pushing that forward in a sense to of course, extend that into enemy jungle pressure and using like all the windows that are actually presented to you within the game. Because looking at that series against FlyQuest, it's like they managed to have solid leads, but FlyQuest, they were so heavily invested into making sure that they're just stronger in the late game fights with the Smolder, and it worked so well regardless of how far ahead or how many dragons the enemy got, because they got Drakes. They maybe had like a 1k gold lead or something, but in the end, they had to have like that final dance. And looking back at the initial matchup they had in the best of 3, it was very similar to that too, where FlyQuest drafted very wonky compositions where they didn't get enough leads to actually break the scaling compositions of C9. So I think FlyQuest had a very, very good read on them. C9 to me is just very, very outdated, very North American. Because if someone asked me, it's like when it comes to Jojapyun, because he's the player that stands out to me, it's like, oh, why was Jojapyun so hyped? It's like when Jojapyun came in, when he was playing on EG, he was someone that kind of cut against the norm of the previous mid laners in Bjergsen and Jensen in terms of being very, very active in terms of playing his jungle. But now I feel like he's regressed and he's kind of finding like a balance where he's satisfied with being even. So it's like Jojapyun reminds me of what Jensen and Bjergsen were in the past in their heyday when they were dominating, but I feel like we're at the point where you can't get away with that. I think FlyQuest, the one game, they had an early game advantage. They blew them out completely, and FlyQuest, to be able to have a strategy so specific to a team and that work, where pretty much you can argue that was a 4-0 series almost, I think that is telling of how simple C9's approach is. And the final thing I would like to add is, like, in terms of how Thanatos and Vulcan just play fights, I think that is what is holding them back from actually being able to execute a composition that is just like playing in a way where you scale into the game and find a final fight. Because that's how JDG played last year, right? But their support and top lane was so damn good at making sure that their carries go. But every fight in that fucking series was decided because either the Cassandra just went too far forward, or the Nautilus just was completely like just out of position. So that part is where, they are losing me. It's like Thanos is very good mechanically, but it's as if he plays like 3 times zoomed in and he's not paying attention to where his teammates are.
I would say the one engage that I remember, it was the disengage. It was when I think Whippo flashed over the wall, and then Vulcan immediately flashed on him and headbutt pulverized. I was like, okay. But then Masu like ulted in on Kaisa, killed everyone, and then they lost the team fight. It was around like Drake River. I think that was like one of the losing team fights there. It was like, okay, Vulcan still got the mechanics. He read that was a possibility, or he reacted super fast. But I agree, there were a lot more questionable positionings from Thanatos and at times from my boy Philippe. What did you make this series here, Dom?
Yeah, I agree with Yamato. This is what our best teams in North America used to look like. This would be like the matchup in the finals between our best teams. That's like why I'm happy that we have TL in the lineup, because this is just North American League of Legends. It's just a bad version of LCK. That's how it feels. It's LCK pacing, but with no precision. Like when you watch LCK, they're generally inactive. I mean, obviously not every single team is inactive, but the teams are playing much slower. But when they do play those fights are like extremely high quality. But C9 and FlyQuest were playing inactive, and then when they fought, the fights would be low quality. I mean, there was one fight where Bibble just TP'd in, and then he just like ran into the whole enemy team. It literally looked like he DC'd. And I was wondering, I'm like, what does he even say in like comms? Like, what did Bibble possibly say in this situation? Because when you
Look.
when you talk to Bwipo, right? Like when you talk to Bwipo, it feels like there's like a lot of nuance in what he says and how he views the game, and then you just see a play like that where he just TVs it and runs straight, like Renekton, no flank, just front line into the whole enemy team, which should literally lose you the game, by the way. Like that should actually just lose you the game. But C9 just has like the worst botch of all time in the next couple fights. Blabber smited an Alistar. By the way, smite right now, if you don't know what it doesn't give you movement speed anymore. It slows the target and it does 40 damage. Like they nerfed smite because red smite used to be like, people would be like, exhaust ignite on a summoner spell. Like people hated red smite, right? So they nerfed smite to be like only a slow and very little amounts of damage, and we're using it in a fight on like on an Alice or a Nautilus or something, out of all people. Like he used it on a support, and that's why they lose that Baron in game number 3. I don't know. It's really tough to watch because you wanted C9 to be so much better than this. Like if you watch them all split, they weren't only inactive. Like they had games where they would actually make good plays. And even if you look at the approach from C9 and how they started the series pretty cleanly. They had like a game plan. They played well around like the Lily invade timer. They were able to dive bot on a timer that made sense. They had the Lily MF like combo. And it felt like that game, they were playing it out well. Like they stacked the Drakes. They made him like before Vulcan completely ran it down. It was like a very solid game. And then as soon as that happened, the rest of the series, it was just all shit. Like they just completely collapsed. And that's always been the problem with North America. Like the first sign of resistance, it's like, oh shit, the other team's like trying to beat us. Like they might be better than us. Like they could potentially, they're doing something. The second there's any resistance, they just give up. It's like, all right, whatever. It's not that they give up. It's that they just resign to complete inactivity, which is going to be a loss in like any type of high level gameplay. So for me, this is like the worst way that Cloud9 could have lost. If they showed up and FlyQuest played really well, or C9 was going for it and they were playing like, comps that were inspiring to watch and they just didn't have it on the day, I'm okay with it. But the problem for me is like everything else. The problem for me is the fact that when they're playing this game, like they just do nothing and lose. It's like that loss is to anyone. Like you play like that versus fucking Mad Lions, for example. Mad Lions will break your neck. Like you can't do that versus anyone. So they have to rely on being significantly better than teams to the point where there isn't even like any realistic contest, because they just, if any team is able to contest them, they do nothing and lose. It's really hard to watch.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the last draft there, Thanatos plays his 4th game of Cassante. You give Berserker the late scaler. You give Vulcan an engage. Blabber is the most flexible here, I guess, and he's playing Lilia, and then Jojo's playing Corki. I wouldn't say that one's not comfort, but he's not being given the tools to go play make. It's stabilize in the mid lane as quad plays Orianna or whatever. But that goes back to that scaling comp and that comfort. Scaling and comfort, those two go hand in hand for Cloud9, whereas we know that the best teams have been innovating. They've been trying different things in clutch moments. Obviously, Nasus over in the LCK. When we're watching some of the other series, you're just seeing other champs being pulled out and piloted to the point where, yes, use that little bit of ability to create discomfort with unfamiliarity while proactively doing something about it. Otherwise, just play Smolder, which is, which rose up in priority during this series and was ultimately banned by Cloud9 in game number 4. Yamato, when this team comes to mind, if they don't make it, let's say they don't make it against 100 Thieves or Dignitas, probably 100 Thieves, but who knows? What is the reason? Let's tell the future here. What is the reason why Cloud9 doesn't make it to Worlds? Because I think that they're significantly better than both those teams, like Dom's point. But what is the reason why they don't?
No, my main concern is that it seems like they've decided to tighten up way too soon. And what I mean by that is like sometimes you reach points in the season where you realize that you should stick to what you know and not risk your foundation in order to achieve more. Because in the process of trying to expand how you play your mid to late game, there's going to be an accuracy that's going to come with an element of risk. And from FlyQuest side, I think that we could see like a clear evolution and awareness of where they want to go. But in terms of C9, there's almost like this element of stagnation. When you have a team like 100 Thieves that is clearly like ramping up, and I think that they are like finding the stride. They have elements of the past and also looking better in some ways. I think that's where can the other teams improve faster than where C9 is at this moment in terms of where they've decided to tighten up, because it seems like it's like, how can we win games today? And that's what we're going to stick to. It feels almost like there is no ambition to want to beat a Team Liquid. There seems to be like the ambition seems to be to slot into top 3 and to stabilize what you have and to stick to what you have. And I think that's a second strategy. Like I think back to some teams in the past, like maybe the Team Liquid with Buipo Hansam is a bad example because that was just a disaster. But that was also like an attempt of, we're going to stick to these set champions that are going to give us like cheap wins in a way. And maybe they're going to make it through on that sense. But what kind of, what are you then bringing to the World Championship if you get there? At this point in time, I do think that's going to be enough looking at the rest of the field. But it brings like a hint of disappointment. The main question is, what can they take away from this series against FlyQuest? Because maybe they thought, we beat them like this the last time. Maybe we can get away with doing the same. And that's why they kind of, simpled down. But knowing that these teams practice against Team Liquid, like I would wish that we saw more of a fire to try to replicate them, to try to become them and try to beat them. Because in the end, this whole region, even the other teams in it, are so blessed to have Team Liquid, and I'm hoping that, at least in my mind, when I competed against the best G2 or the best Fnatic, it's like all we did was, how the fuck do we beat them? And that makes you so much better. But I don't get that feeling from C9. And obviously I'm reading into a lot from the games, but I just, it just comes back to my first initial phrase. It just feels so North American in terms of how they play.
Yeah, they're really North American. The other thing you have to consider is when they played this match. This is the upper bracket. Like, you have another tournament life, so you can really go for it in this series.
Right.
And if it doesn't work, you have maybe one of the easiest ways to Worlds that we've seen in the LCS. Like 100 Thieves and Dignitas look on a completely different level. If you watched LCS at all this split, you knew it was the top 3 and then everyone else. So like, sure, maybe FlyQuest could beat you on their best day. Maybe they're a better team than you. But like, it should be impossible to lose to 100 Thieves. How could you lose to 100 Thieves? Like, what could you possibly do? Like, I mean, you have better lanes. Like, Ayla's going to run it down at some point. Like, he'll lose you the game. And that's exactly what C9 is looking for, by the way. They want to do nothing and have somebody like Ayla run it down. To me, I see this and I'm like, if this is your approach, if you go into this like fully flaccid pussy-o mindset off one loss in the upper bracket finals, what's going to happen when you're actually under pressure? Because this is the least pressure you get. It's playoffs, but you're not in a stadium. It's not Worlds, right? You're not in a stadium. You still have another tournament life, so it's not like the finals of this. You're not playing for your placing within it. And you have a free chance to get to Worlds because 100 Thieves and Dignitas just don't have the ability to beat these teams. I mean, it would be a fucking miracle if either of these teams were able to beat Cloud9. Even Cloud9 being full pussy-o, they'll probably be able to get it over the line. I mean, it's very hard for them to lose to teams that try to be active, but like just don't have the baseline understanding to have anything behind that activity. So yeah, it's just tough. It's one of the worst showings you could ask for if you were looking for a Cloud9 to do well, because I thought Cloud9 was going to win this series. I mean, even the way they played versus FlyQuest in the final week, I thought that was much better. Like, that made a lot more sense to me in how they approach this. But yeah, also one thing that should be talked about is Thanatos champion pool, because he was kind of Renekton Gnar 2-trick the entire split. He played, I think, 3 games of Cassante before this series. Renekton Gnar, and then like 3 random champions one time. It was like one Skarner when it was Giga broken, one Ornn, I believe, and then another one was like a Camille game, like at the beginning. So he's essentially just been playing only Gnar, only Renekton the entire split. And in this series, it's like Bwipo's taking the Renekton away, and his answer is to just go Cassante every time. And Cassante, the whole idea of Cassante versus Renekton is that if you're a good Cassante, you can lose lane gracefully and then be like Cassante later on in team fights. But his team fighting is bad. So it's like you do Thanatos is not going to win lane. Like, maybe he'll lane a little bit better than he should. I mean, he gets a solo kill on Bwipo because Bwipo just does something completely terminal in the top lane. But overall, you didn't feel the effect of that in the game. You know, it was just like, oh, okay, he's playing his champion. And then you watch team fights and it feels like he's very panicked, or he has no idea what people are doing on his team. Like, there's fights where all he needs to do is either walk up and like, so for example, when they're doing like the Senna Cassante comp, you're playing a tank, you have really good sustain. So if you're playing a tank with sustain, you don't want this Amumu who's building Leandres to walk up. Like you need to like go take space, like walk up, be ready to like E a skill shot, W back on their combo, you get healed. Like you can take space like that. In other situations where he's playing things where he needs to just play more safe, where they're playing more engaged, he'll just like walk into the whole team and die. It just feels like he's not sure of what his job is in every single fight because it changes. And that's the reason why Cassante is such a good champion, is that you can do different things with it and it's so flexible. And it has so many different ways where you can play out a fight, but it just felt like he was almost never finding what the right one was given the circumstances he was in.
You know, when we're talking inactivity with this team, and we've brought up JoJo Playmaker. In years past, we've said Blabber, one of the most aggressive junglers in the league, maybe not as aggressive as like Inspired, but in a different way, right? Inspired will play you macro, but Blabber likes to play you macro and micro. I'd say more micro. Berserker, he does scale, but has great hands. Vulcan plays engage. Like, and Thanatos, the hype came from the team fighting back in LCK tier 2, when we call it challengers, LCK challengers. I'm just confused on why this team is now defaulting to the reactive rather than proactive, or aggressively proactive. Right? Like it hasn't clicked yet, and they're running out of time to make it click. So with the parts that they have, what do we rate them in terms of fraudulency scale, in terms of Worlds caliber North American team? Like when we think about Worlds in North America and Cloud9 past, where do we rate them in terms of fraudulency scale as if we send them to Worlds? So like teams that maybe don't watch LCS, I don't know who wouldn't want to watch LCS. They are like, okay, it's Cloud9 shit. And they don't know which kind of Cloud9 it is. What is the fraudulency scale compared to the past? Dom?
I would say that this team is like, I mean, it depends. Like if you rate them based off what they should be, like as a team, like because there's different Cloud9 lineups, there's different lineups of third seeds. Like if you compare them to what they should be with this roster and these players, they're giga fraudulent. Like they are a failed North American super team if they play like this going forward. Like this would be, you know, TL level, not necessarily TL level, because TL had probably worse competition, and they didn't make it. But like this would be like TL level of failure in my mind, where it's like, wow, you guys did nothing. Like it's just a waste of a year where you guys should have been better than you were. If you compare them to like third seeds in the past, they're not much worse than what the average North American third seed is. But that's something that for me is like, the average North American third seed is normally pretty bad. If you think about it, it's like TL last year when they're super raw. Think about like Clutch Gaming, for example, who can't win a game going forward. I mean, the third seed is normally really rough when it comes to going internationally. Like the 100 Thieves team before that. I mean, there's just a bunch of examples of the third team just not being a very good team. I mean, we had that one Cloud9 team that was decent, but the point is, in general, that team is normally pretty fraudulent. I would say that for this Cloud9 lineup, if I just compare them against what they should be, I'd say this is like an 8 out of 10 fraudulency, 9 out of 10 fraudulency for me.
9 out of 10. Yamato, what do you got here?
Yeah, I think the main question is like, what is your point of comparison? Because it's like when this roster was announced that Jojo Pune is going to C9, they have Berserker, Blabber, Jojo Pune, you're thinking, damn, they're gonna fucking just smoke the league, you know, regardless of who they filled in. They have Fudge, who's been there for a long time, and then Vulcan, you know, probably the best support they could have like gotten, considering Code JJ is taken and in Team Liquid. You know, I think when you put that into context with that offseason in mind, I have to agree that like the fraudulency is fucking through the roof. If I compare it to the previous split and how they came into this split in terms of what I expected in this isolation, I would be a little bit lighter on them. But looking at the whole year, like with the signings they made, I think that probably like Jack couldn't have done like a better job. You know, it's like fucking you pair together Jojo Pune, Blabber, and Berserker. You know, after the performances these players have had in the past, you're expecting super much here. Like you're expecting like a team that is going to dominate. Like I had high expectations from FlyQuest too, but not as much considering like there was like some names that I didn't recognize. I didn't think too much about Busio. Masu was like, oh, well, how is that going to work out? You know, I wasn't so sure. And there's like Jensen, you know, it's like, and in essence, I think just that spring split is a massive failure. And I think that taints C9's story of this year in terms of where their ambition should have been with the roster that they had. So, like, contextualizing this split, I'll be like a little bit light on them. It's like I'm sad with the approach they had against FlyQuest. It's like, yo, to put your balls on the table, you know, like do some swinging, you know, see what's up. You know, I want to see a team that has the ambition to win North America and not just the ambition to make it to Worlds. That's what I want to see, because now at least FlyQuest, it gives you like, oh, what can they do against Team Liquid? Probably they will lose, but it looks like they are looking to swing their hands a little bit. That is like fun for me. But C9, it's like, oh, we're gonna make it to Worlds. This is how we can beat all. This is how we can make sure that let's stabilize and keep it safe, you know. So I guess like in the context of just the off season, as mentioned before, I think probably like 9-8. I'm with Dom on that aspect for sure.
Somewhere along the way, over in Los Angeles, there is a Mythi laughing as he prepares his papers to get ready to go back to Europe. All right. Well, there you go. That is fraud alert, as LCS has had some success stories, Cloud9 not being one of them. But now it's time for the Into the AM glow up, y'all. And it's a good time to remind all of our friends about Into the AM, where they have their labor sale happening right now, up to 50% off everything site-wide until September 9th. Again, LFN fans get an additional 10% on top of other discounts by heading to the link www.intotheam.com/LFN and using the code LFN at checkout. You can see Dom's shirt right there. Again, their graphic tees have been nuts and insane. Lots of different types of designs, just some casual to wear. Dom, what is that one that you have? What did you pick out?
I mean, this was just one of the designs. This is actually Rachel's shirt. It's like a futuristic, like there's like cactuses, kind of like Southwest futuristic vibe. I like it. You know, I think it matches because I'm normally somebody who wears like darker colors, right? So I feel like this is subtle enough where you're like, oh, what is that? But like it doesn't like stand out. It doesn't seem like, oh, like this, like what is he wearing today? Like if I wore this on a normal stream, people wouldn't give me a million comments. Whereas if I wore like, you know, something red, people would be like, what the fuck is wrong with Dom today? Like, who is this Dom clone on the stream? So generally, I've liked the clothes. They do hoodies as well. The material is really like comfy. If you feel the material, it's like that soft, like cotton that just feels good on your body. So I enjoy the clothes. It is very solid. I wear them. This one was stolen from me, but like, you know, a lot of the ones that we got are, you know, that's how you know your quality is good.
Yeah.
If your girlfriend is stealing your clothes, then the clothes are good quality. That's how it works.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Into the AM helps you get girlfriends like Dom's that will steal your clothes.
Yep.
Done. Relationship solved. Remember that
works.
Into the AM ships free globally to many different countries. Yamato, when you get your order, I need you to get the athletic shorts. They hug the thighs really nice, and I feel like that's kind of your thing. Like that wasn't my thing until I got my Into the AM shorts, and then I was like, oh shit, this feels a little European football-esque. You know, I've been like the soccer, I like the little looser, baggy, whatever. I wear tights underneath. These, I don't need tights underneath. I feel supported. You definitely check those athletic shorts out, brother.
Bro, I look forward to it. When they hug my thighs, I'm going to be thinking of you, bro. I did
That's
my
what I
order.
expect. That's what I want.
I got all the linens, bro. The linens, like what's it called? Not the linens. I'm saying the Swedish words. The tank tops. Someone to show off my belts, you know. I really like the tank tops. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm resorting to wearing jerseys that I got for free, you know, at the World Championship and shit. You know, like I need to fill out my wardrobe. I need to be covered with the show off my delts in the summer, bro, on stream, you know.
There you go. Well, not only will Yamato do it, you all can as well. Remember, that's www.intotheam.com/LFN for an additional 10% off the discounts that are happening, and it's free shipping. Thanks to our friends over at Into the AM. Time to get into the segment. It's the Into the AM Glow Up. All right. So With that said, let's get into some of the best players and teams that maybe have surprised you, the glow up of the best teams and players. So just a couple that come to mind here for you, Dom. Who are some players that surprised you from the beginning of their playoffs to where we're at now?
I would say Merwin is a player that's like got his. I mean, if you wanna go through like who he was the beginning of the year, this is like a return to that form. Like he was the player that had the capability to play these types of unique picks top lane. Obviously, I think the Nidalee in the last couple of games is a little too much. There's a little too much Nidalee top. But overall, I mean, it feels like he's playing a lot better than he did in summer or like spring. And that has given Mad Lions a whole new level. Like when Mad Lions plays Standard League, they're one of the least scary teams in the LEC. That's like why they lost every game. But when they're actually, going for it and they're playing their aggressive top lane picks, it gives them just a whole different dimension that I feel like makes the team go from being like one of the worst teams in the league to being like top 4, for example. So I would say Merwin is probably the one that has had the biggest glow up in my mind if you compare it to just recent form.
No, I'm with you on Merwin. I think that the first game when we were watching it together, right? It was like, damn, they won with K-Sante. It was like,
yeah,
that was like, ooh, Fnatic might be in trouble because there was nothing weird about what Mad Lions did. It's like the fact that he's capable of playing that side of things too, and he was like playing weak side, and Mad Lions managed to like punch through. I think like what you said in terms of like the difference can be like a small difference can be so large in terms of enabling like the rest of the game. It's like I don't want to put shit on Gilius, but it's like when we brought in Kikis, it's like he added something so little, but it enabled everybody else to play a certain way that goes such a long way in terms of the glow up we had, because suddenly we went on like a big win streak. And aesthetically, it looks like, oh, this player Kikis is doing it all, but everybody's just playing better because sometimes there is just one little hurdle that blocks you from like going to the next step.
So Gilius was preventing you guys from making worlds.
That's what I got to. Yeah, clip it, send it.
Nice.
We'll see what happens next time. A kick in the sack. That'll be the next co-stream.
I'm gonna change the subject. North America, here we are. Gilius doesn't have the attention span to reach this point in the pod, so it's all good.
Nice, and you called him stupid. He's talentless and stupid. That's our best friend, Gilius.
Yeah, Yamato's he's starting to feel the hate. He's feeling the hate consume.
Yo, dGon, does he do this shit to you? Where he like,
dude. Yes. That shit happens all the time.
Like I don't like eating bananas. Oh, so you hate all fruit? You hate being healthy? So you just want to die early? And it's like, fucking dumb.
No, I would say something more like, so you're a racist against apples. Oh, so Yamato's a racist. Nice.
Yeah.
Good to figure that out.
Nice.
He hates things that are red. All flags or certain flags have red. All countries that have red in their flag, Yamato hates them. There you go. Done. That's how it happened.
It's the most common color on all flags in all of the world. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Nice.
You're welcome.
I'm flying everywhere.
Except for Sweden, bro. You can stay in Sweden, man. No red on that flag.
Shit.
Speaking of red, I think for me it's Zeus. Zeus looked a lot better in his series here for T1. You want to give it to anyone else on that team, but Zeus is the guy on that squad that they build around, and they decide to play through him. When they decide to play through him, it's very, very clear. Guma and Keria do their thing, and they don't decide to play through through Gumayushi a lot. It's usually they decide to play through Keria, if anything. And then Faker hasn't been to the top hard carry form. Not that he's needed to do that in a very long time. He'll hit you a Nazir shuffle when he needs to. And then Owner just goes wherever is needed. Rarely do they lock him in Viego and then he hard carries Viego. They'll do it sometimes, but not always. But Zeus is the guy on that squad. He looked very, very good. And it was the team's effort to play against Perfect, the rookie that was coming into KT, who has played stable and I think has been a good shout out throughout the year, but they really punished him. And every time he does an interview, he's like, I must do better. I'm not at my best form yet. blah, blah, blah. And they're like, that kid is insecure. We're going to play and shit on him. And they did. So shout out to Zeus for the Into the AM glow up. Any teams that jump out at you, Yamato, since we were giving you such a hard time there?
No, just I wanted to bounce off your Zeus point too, because I think as a follow up, it does become exciting for the next matchup that they have, because at least you feel an element of, oh, Zeus is a little bit back. I feel like right now Zeus has turned into a player that is like, he's very good at shitting on bad players. Like I don't think that he's stable in the sense that how he plays side and how he generates revenue, but he's really good at shitting at bad players. And maybe this is a moment where he can shake off, those past performances against a Doran and shit on a bad player, because that could be like their way into maybe beating How Alive on the day, because they have so many issues T1 currently. Looking at teams, and this might be a weird one, but like considering where BDS was at the entire summer split,
Sure.
like they lost in a pretty like borderline pathetic way against G2 getting swept, but I think that's something that everybody like expected and could see it happen. I think G2 made like the right adjustments, but considering where BDS were in the summer split, I think that their run was so bullshit in terms of how they won games and won series. Their story was like a mini version of the G2 story in terms of how they like got away from like really lost positions to win games, and like Lavrov didn't look like himself at all, and they kind of lost everything that resembled an identity, to the point where like the macro didn't look the same, the play didn't look the same. And I do think that BDS, I think they completely slaughtered SK in a way that I think looked a lot better than they definitely played all summer. And I think that the series against G2 was respectable. So in the context of that, I do think that BDS looked a lot better. I think Mad Lions is a good shout too, but in the end, I think looking at Korea, I think we're going to probably be talking about it later, right? But like Weibo Gaming, if anything, is like the biggest team that has made the biggest glow ups and the biggest changes and the biggest strides. But I'm sure we're going to unpack that on the LPL final preview that comes later down the line.
Yeah. Dom, it looked like you wanted to say something here about this T1 Homo Life stuff when he was touching on it, or were you just?
Yeah, I mean, I just when you look at Zeus, like I know that historically he had really bad series against Doran, and like those finals, it was surprising. And the reason it was surprising is because when you watch Zeus play, you can't conceptualize how a player like Doran could ever beat a player like Zeus, like 1v1 or like outlane him, like anything like this, because like Doran just looks so sketchy all the time, where Zeus has that like cleanliness to his gameplay when he's playing well, where it's like, damn, like this guy's just on form. So I always feel the same way. It's like when I go into these series, like I feel like Zeus should be better than Doran, but for some reason it doesn't go that way. I think that series is going to be really interesting, because I want to see how much T1's like small improvements can actually matter versus a team that's legit like Hanwha Life, because Hanwha Life has been a team that's been really consistently good. Like they've had not many flaws at all. Like sure, they haven't been as good as Gen G, but they've been right there with them the entire year. And T1, even in their or the entire split, and T1 even in their win versus KT, I mean, there was multiple times where I felt like they should have like lost games. Like game 1, I felt like the way that they made that one play where Guma dies, everyone dies. Like I feel like that play that Faker tried to make top tier 1 turret, I feel like this play is like a game loser versus Hanwha Life and Gen G. That's how I feel. Game 4, for example, when Pyosik steals this Baron, I think the game is actually good for KT. If KT just chooses to run and they wait for Pyosik to respawn and they just play like bot mid off that respawn with their Corki with Baron, with their Ezreal with Baron, I think they just win that game as well. If they're a better team. Like I don't think you can make these types of mistakes versus Gen G Hanwha Life. So I want to see if T1 is going to, like the thing I always say is that the T1 team just has aura. Like they just have that like world champion vibe about them, where it's like, oh shit, we can win versus anyone at any time. Even when we're playing bad, there's still the potential. Like no one wants to really play against T1. That's evident by the fact that Gen G took Dom1, even though T1 has been playing worse than Dom1 the entire year, right? Like they're just a scarier team. But yeah, like I think that if you look at how Hanwha Life and T1 are playing now, I feel like Hanwha Life should be able to just beat them. So I want to see the Zeus Doran matchup. I want to see if you know, if Hanwha Life collapses or if they're able to actually fight with T1, because I think that it will be a fight. I don't think that it will be just a clean sweep by Hanwha Life, and I hope they don't go full Cloud9. I hope they don't go top esports on me where, you know, you lose the game or you play bad in one situation and you collapse, because I don't know why I feel that when I watch Hanwha.
I think they just need to prove it. Like, I just want them to prove it. Like, prove it, beat T1, go to the finals, book your ticket, you know, for Worlds. But I think if they can wrestle those demons, and this T1 aura is like a real fucking thing. It's a real thing. Like, I think that helps any team that's able to do that, especially since it's been the same finals for the last 5 finals, I think, just different winner. It is whoever is able to do that, I think, has such a big boost. And I think it really does feel like Hanwha Life is best suited for that boost. They can then release, you know, the pressure of Jakob being a world champ, then failing for a long time. Peanut just haven't been able to get over the hump. That's basically it. Viper, I think, is just whatever. You know, he'll get back to form when it's time to go and the team decides to play around him. And then maybe Doran, if he has a good series, will be like, all right, well, we beat him when it mattered finally. So, yeah. There's our current glow up, which is T1, which is why they didn't get picked by Gen G and Zeus. And then the potential glow up by Hanwha Life Esports, if they're able to get the victory here. It'll add to their aura. Let us know who you think has had the biggest glow up throughout the global League of Legends playoff landscape. 50% off during the Labor Day sale and an extra 10% off when you use the code LFN, www.intotheam.com/LFN. All right, next up, just because we got to keep it going with our friends over at G2, and Fnatic's already waiting in the top side. It's time for Keeper Kick. Which one are we picking from the El Clasico, which we're assuming is going to happen? Keeper Kick, G2 or Fnatic? I don't think this one's going to be too long, but also we're going to spend a little bit of time on it because G2 made us wait. And watching that series, I was like, man, these guys are they are so bored. They're just so bored. How do we make this even more interesting? What's the biggest deficit we can be in to come back? I was like, oh shit, BDS. No, they're going to do it. Nope. Oh shit. And then by game 5, you just look at the player cam faces on BDS and fucking Lebrov is just LeBroing all over the place, bro. It was just, and then Caps gets up with his just shit-eating smile, just like, yeah, I guess we won again. It's so fucking funny and so fun until you think about international play that I'm like, God, man, this is Europe. This is the best team in Europe. They're so good. I'm not even docking them points for this. I think it's actually really cool that they get to just doof around like that. What do you think here, Yamato?
Bro, I'm going to be good cop. Good cop, you know?
All right, good cop.
G2, at least, you know, because this for me, we were wrestling with this all year. We're watching LCS. So what the fuck are we drafting? Why are we doing YamatoCannon here, man? What's happening, man? At least, you know, we got the Maokais and the Ivans are flowing. We see Caps playing like the other mid laners. It's like, I think the main thing for me, right, is that they had the balls and the guts to actually drop like 2 Zeri games. They fell behind, and then I was like, okay, let's take a step back and go back to the roots, you know? The Tristana came through, the Smolder came through, and I think that at least I got the feeling, and I think everybody else did too, that G2 is going to reverse sweep that series, because it seemed like it was always somewhat in their control. You know, I think it was very easy to measure where BDS was at, and I think G2 just needed to kind of step it up in a weird way. And I think the moment they dropped Zeri, they structured around ways so they could actually like gain something from coming to Caps and moving to Caps, because I think that's what they live and die by. And I think the moment that happens, you could see that their setups were a lot cleaner, their play around side was a lot cleaner in terms of how like Mickey like pushed it forward on the Nautilus. It's like we were watching that last game. It's like, yo, Mickey is 0-0-2 on Nautilus. What is happening? He's not like queuing into the war, you know, he's not like dying left and right. So it's like, for me, I think G2, it seemed to me like to look at it in a very, very positive light. Like it is weird that they drop games because you kind of want the same feeling that you get when you're watching Team Liquid. It's like I walked into that Team Liquid series against the Hunt Thieves, like they're gonna 3-0. But when people ask me, it's like, Yamato, how's the G2 series gonna go? It's like I expect them to win, but it's G2. They don't fucking 3-0 fucking anybody, you know. And that to me is like where the juxtaposition is and the painful part of G2, because as the main leader of a region, you want them to like lay down the hammer and lay down the law and really smash people regardless of what they bring to the table. So I'm happy with some of the progression we've seen, but once again, it's like if I zoom out and look at things as a whole, then like I'm like, yo, G2, what the fuck are you doing? But I think it was like a good crescendo, good ending on the series, and G2 showed like some good signs of life.
All right, Dom, you were going to be the bad cop anyway. So, what did you make this? You don't have to be bad cop. But what do you make this series? And I think the question is between me and Keeper Kick, who is the the leader of Europe.
I just expect more from this G2 lineup. Like I don't want to see. I think we're past the point where them stumbling over and like getting it together just enough to win another title gives you confidence in the team. Like we saw them win 3-0 versus Fnatic in the summer playoffs, and that didn't feel good at all. I think their drafting is still really fucking bad. Like they're banning Braum to first pick Nautilus, and they're just praying to God that Lebrov is not going to lock Leona. If Lebrov just sacks up and drafts Leona there, which completely, like, I mean, if you watch Leona versus Nautilus in any pro game, we saw it in the Mad Lion series right after. Leona just fists Nautilus. Like there's nothing you could do. Like both supports just fight each other, and then one dies and the other one doesn't. It's just a hard counter. So the fact that they can get away with that and they're just relying on like BDS collapse, I want to see them actually be a better team than like BDS on standard stuff and not have to resort to being like drafting super cynically and being like, all right, the only thing this guy can play into Nautilus is Brahms. We remove that. If we draft Nautilus, he'll counterpick himself. He'll go Rakan because they're like so mentally shattered. I hate that type of mentality. Like in Europe, obviously that is a way you win. And versus like when it really matters, when you're playing versus top teams in the world, like and you're able to find advantages like this, I guess it's nice in a way that they can find that advantage. I just think that when you have to do that versus BDS, it shows me where you are as a team. I don't think that like makes any sense. And then I'm still really suspect of Yike. I feel like Yike has just been bad for like since MSI pretty much. Like he wasn't good at EWC, he wasn't good in summer, he wasn't good in summer playoffs, he hasn't been good now. It just feels like he's trying to do nothing and AFK his way to another title, and I really hope it doesn't happen, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like there should be some punishment if your jungler's not really playing the game for like long periods of time. Like their jungler really just isn't doing anything in these games, and sure, they're locking in like Ivor and Maokai and they're trying to do stuff, but even like the Maokai, like I'm watching him make like mistakes, like just like micro mistakes on Maokai, and it's like, bro, like how in our own heads are we when we're just like we're flashing forward to Q a support, he flashes away, then he's in no man's land, loses his whole HP bar. I see mistakes like that, it's very hard for me to rate it highly. I don't know. So G2, I'm just disappointed because I think they're better than, or like I hope that they're better. I think they still are the hope of Europe. They are the team that could do the best in this region, and if they play like this, it's just going to be another disappointing Worlds for EU. So I'm not out on them because I always believed that this team could like get it together. Like if they just are playing on the Worlds patch, they'll have a different approach. I feel like new patches are something that's always been good for G2, but their level of play, like their skill level right now, doesn't look amazing. Like I would expect what I would have expected is that, sure, they probably took a break before the Mad Lion series. They played horrible in the Mad Lion series. They were going to buckle down and like get it together in this lower bracket run. And every time I've been saying this, I'm like, okay, G2 is going to show me something now. They're going to get it together. Whenever they're like tested and I want them to show something, it feels like it just never happens. I don't know. Like it just hasn't happened in like the last 4 months that I've been hoping for it. So ever since MSI, I'm just sitting here and I'm trying to just erase my memory from everything that I've seen in recent months. Like I just wish we went straight from MSI to Worlds and I didn't have to watch this, because this whole stretch has just made me think less of G2 as a team.
Yeah, just because in this series, game one, it was what you were calling out here, Yamato, where Adam pulls out Mundo. As you know, there's the, hey, here's the balls on the table, let's see what you got. And they're the ones playing that should theoretically be playing scared because G2's already at Worlds. They're already qualified, even if they lost here. Yes, they want to be the #1 seed. Yes, they want another finals championship trophy during the summer split finals after they won the summer split finals. This is actually the season finals, semifinals. But because BDS were the team that were on the back with backs against the wall, and they're the ones that brought it to T1 and didn't let them scale in game #1. Then in game 2, they play standard, a strong standard comp with the Ashe Sejuani, and show up and win. It felt like G2 should have been, or BDS was the team that deserved the victory. There we go. That's what I meant to say there, Yamato.
Yeah, I think the main thing, right, is like I think the comparison will always be Team Liquid against G2, right? Because of how they maneuver the region. It's like Team Liquid, it's like what they showed against 100 Thieves, which I maybe like from like just expected level comparison, it's like similar to maybe like a BDS G2 matchup. Sure, there's some small difference, but whatever. I think like Team Liquid came into that series and showed like a very, very new and dynamic level. They play like Kaiser Nautilus, they play like mages and mid. It's like they didn't like resort to the same old. They showcased like an evolution that brings you excitement, but maintained the integrity of their play. G2, it's like they will probably win the split again. They probably will, but in essence, when they are running back this roster, you want them to do good at the World Championship. We've had this conversation so many times. They're going to do it in Europe. They're going to be in Europe, no boot camp, very little practice against better teams, very little resistance. They are resorting to tricks to win these series. I think that's the main thing. They're resorting to tricks. And that can be very, very good and very useful, but it only gets you so far. And this is the process where you want to kind of feel excitement and a build up for the World Championship. Because I compare it to previous years when Mad Lions beat G2 randomly, like during the COVID year, like they beat them 3-2. All of a sudden, G2, they went back. It's like Perks was mad, Caps was mad. They're all pissed. It's like, how the fuck do we lose against these bums, you know? It's like, and then all of a sudden they just ran through everything. It's like past versions of G2 gave you excitement as the ramp up happened. And in a case where, you know, they had a very, very strong MSI, as Dom mentioned, there is very little in summer, if nothing at all, that gives you excitement, because even like the main thing that has brought us excitement, that is Caps' level. Like he was insane at MSI, insane in spring. And it's even at the point where he looks tired of dragging his teammates, but it seems like it's going to happen again.
What's going to think? Would EWC provide like success story there? And no, we were more proud of the way that FlyQuest lost than G2 won, and they had already been talking about, hey, we are our own best or worst enemy. So on the opposite side, Fnatic, they eke out a 3-2 victory here against Mad Lions. How do we contextualize Fnatic, and if they end up winning the season finals, is G2 still the favorite, the best team coming out of Europe?
I don't know. No one believes in Fnatic. It's just, even the way they beat Mad Lions. Like, how can you believe in that? Like the game 4, the game 5. Like the game 5, they catch a throw that they should never be. Like number 1, they start with a 2-0 Corki. You start with a 2-0 Corki. We've seen this before, right? We saw this recently in the LPL. If a Corki just TPs bot or just gets 2 free kills at like level 6, level 7, a champion that scales that hard, the whole game becomes around him. He hits the power spikes way too fast, and you just win the game. You watch how Fnatic plays with a 2-0 Corki, and it's like they just completely throw the game. The game is completely not stable, and then by the grace of God, they end up winning because Mad Lions throws at the end. Game 4, they're in an unlosable position, and then they throw that game. It's like you're still seeing the same like low quality ints from Fnatic consistently. I don't know how anyone in good faith can be watching this and be like confident in Fnatic and feel like they've got over any of the barriers. It feels like they're still ready to choke at any point, and I just think that Mad Lions is a team that throws a lot in how they play. Even in game 4, to be honest, like that was a game that Mad Lions once again threw before Fnatic threw again, and that's the big problem that I've had with a lot of these games. Is like at least G2 can catch a throw and they win Like they'll play bad early games, but they'll catch a throw and they'll win once the enemy team is thrown. When I watch teams like Fnatic and Mad Lions, it just feels like it's just baseball. It's just throw after throw after throw after throw, and it's like, okay, one team ends up winning at the end. But I'm not impressed with that quality because I just don't think that good teams will allow you to do that. Like I think when you look at the cleanliness of like the top teams, like they don't have big catastrophes like that frequently in games. You know, that's one of the reasons why people are suspect of T1 right now is they're having those mistakes where it's like Hanwha Life, Genji. I mean, even Dom1, like Dom1 has some bad macro late game, but they're not a team that will just like completely vomit on themselves and int for no reason when it comes to some fight at like 20 minutes. Like the ways that these fights are coming like to be are just people not knowing where their waves are in relation to where they are in the jungles. They just get caught. It's like very basic mistakes that it seems like the teams are making. So it's tough for me to really rate Fnatic good, rate Fnatic highly, because it doesn't seem like they've gotten better at anything that they were bad at in the summer split finals. So if that's the case, even if they end up winning this, let's say Mad Lions just beats G2 and then Fnatic beats Mad Lions again, I don't feel good about that result from Fnatic. I would still think like, okay, G2 played horrible this season finals, but maybe they get it together. I would still have that opinion, unless Fnatic just plays at some super crisp level and they show us something in the finals that we haven't seen the entire year up until this point.
All right. Well, looks like we're all keeping G2 then. Yes,
Yes,
keep
so.
G2. All right.
With love, we kick out the black and orange.
Sorry,
It's
Fnatic.
Too many demons, man. Too many demons. How did they conquer all these demons that they've had of choking and just...
And Jun is playing bad now. Like
the mental conversation coming into a final against G2. It's like you need custom model, the coach of fucking Mike Tyson, to hypnotize them before that final or some shit. You know, it's just way too much luggage, bro. You know, that's like fucking 10 extra checked 23 kilo luggages that you have to check in. It's just too rough, man. Too rough.
Every region has their legacy organization and their legacy story. And until that truly changes, maybe whether it's a result that is surprising or a major overhaul of the roster, you're always going to have Cloud9's going to Cloud9 until they don't. G2 are going to G2 until they don't. T1's going to T1 until they don't. And there have been years where one or maybe two of those teams don't anymore. Like, think about the only region where it's really fluid right now. Let's give TL their due. TL's one of them, but they've still been a top org, but TL's one of them. The other one's over at the LPL, where the top has changed. We're not talking about RNG anymore. We're not talking about IG anymore. Like, the guard has shifted. Maybe not in the last, 2 years, but still, the guard has shifted from those legacy organizations and always having the aura about them. And so this one no different in this week's keeper kick between Fnatic and G2. You know what? I think actually flip it, if Mad Lions wins it all, then now we're getting an interesting conversation, and they have to win at least one series over at Worlds. Then okay, cool. We can talk about it then. All right. Well, that was our keeper kick. And next up, our final partner here at Power Spike and Last Free Nation, another one that I use all the time. So does Yamato. It's our friends over at ExpressVPN. So let me read this one because this one caught my eye. And if you're just listening, don't worry about it. You see this? You see my phone? Maybe you can see it. I'll cover the logo there, but you see all those scratches and cracks? Well, that's what it's like going online without ExpressVPN. Most of the time, you'll be fine without a phone case, but it only takes one drop and you'll wish you spent those extra few bucks on a case. That's the type of protection you get with ExpressVPN. It's not that hard to get your information stolen and taken away, but by using ExpressVPN, you're able to add an even deeper layer of security by hiding your specific personal information. It's a lot easier to do every time when you connect to an unencrypted network. I know we got some of you bougie coffee drinkers maybe a chain that's green that gives you free internet. It's not secure when you do that. Hacker can log in, steal your shit. When you're in the airport, same shit. You accidentally log into the thing that says free airport Wi-Fi, but that's a hacker. If you did it beforehand and you had ExpressVPN on, nothing bad would happen, and then you would go to the right one afterwards. Doesn't take that much to do that. So make sure to protect yourself with your friends over at ExpressVPN. I've been using it a lot because I've been traveling a lot, and to connect back to some of my logins from the US side of things and able to watch things like the Olympics and, you know, watch Noah Lyles win gold, watch the US women's rugby team win the first ever medal in 100 years. That was epic. And that was just the highlights. I used my friends over at ExpressVPN to go ahead and watch that. Yamato, how do you use ExpressVPN?
But I'm a value man. I love value. You know, it's ExpressVPN. You know, in my mind, it's like living without a VPN is rough because I came to terms with how much I have with my phone. It's like every time you connect to a network, like there was this thing at school. Like a long time ago, it's like we got laptops at school, and someone came with an app that you just download on your phone. You could share it super easily, and whatever cookies that were sent through the same VLAN, you just has access to. And people were doing like jokes unmaliciously back then at school, at the VLAN of like the school, where people like log into their Facebook and write to like a random girl. It's like, I like you. You want to go out? Like non-malicious shit, you know, just as a prank. But it's like the fact that it was that easy really, really scares the shit out of me, you know? It's like, back to the point about value, you know, it's like something that I was taught is that Skyscanner and all of these companies that send you flights, depending on where you're from, they're going to give you very different prices. So it's like you can put yourself in a situation or in a country that is, you know, has a smaller GDP per capita than, of course, your country, and you can just get better deals. And for me, is I pay for Netflix, I pay for all this stuff, you know, give me all the shows. So I'm just a value man. VPN gives me, it's like that, you know, cherry on top of the cake of money that you spend on everything else, and it just makes everything so much better, man.
That's right. I mean, just like what you just said there, ExpressVPN can work across multiple different devices, phones, laptops, tablets, more, so you can stay secure on the go. And it's specifically ExpressVPN rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. So secure your online data today by heading on over to expressvpn.com/powerspike. That's expressvpn.com/powerspike, and you can get an extra 3 months free. That's expressvpn.com/powerspike. Thanks to our friends over at ExpressVPN for letting me watch my favorite shows. And Yamato, tell the gal that he likes her without anyone knowing, except the gal. That was a very interesting anecdote there, Yamato. I was like, what's going with this, man?
Scary.
Yep, I was scared. Yeah, I was scared when he started going down. But then I realized that Yamato he's not Gilius. If Gilius started going down that, oh man, like we are losing the sponsor.
Yeah. No, it wasn't me. Other people did that shit to me. I was the victim.
So you were the victim of all the love notes?
Internet jiu-jitsu, bro. That's what it is. You have to defend yourself.
The internet jiu-jitsu. I like that one. All right, let's close out today's show with the Galaxy Brain Club. It's time for the LPL Finals preview as maybe a surprise team. I'd say a surprise team that made it on in. Everyone thought it was going to be LNG. Most people thought it was going to be LNG, but all 4 teams worthy of it. Dom, it's that time for you to break it on down. It is our Galaxy Brain Club, the LPL Finals. Okie dokie. I mean, the 2 teams that we expected, right, Dom?
Hell no.
Hell no.
How did we get here?
I mean, I think
give it to him.
It is what it is. Top esports, we say it all the time. They have a glass jaw. You hit them once, they completely fucking collapse. They become a way different team if they lose one game in a series. They're not like North America. They're not like Cloud9 where they just become giga pussios, but they will go for some over aggressive dives. They will just have random mistakes that they normally wouldn't have before. So I feel like top esports, just the classic top esports choke job versus Weibo. I think that if they played, 100 series, I think generally top esports would come out on top. I think they were the favorites going in, but Weibo caught them on the day, and I think Weibo is playing better. Like, there's some things that make Weibo interesting. Their prios are a little bit different. I think the fact that they can pick any jungler in the game and actually have it be good for them, like they can play every jungler in the game pretty much in any way that the game needs to be played. I think that is a huge advantage. Breathe is improved. Breathe was playing super bad. Like, he was a big weakness on this team, but now he's gotten to the point where he's pretty solid. So overall, light is also extremely good. Like, so they have enough pieces. I mean, that is a team that has good players on it, and if you show up and you don't play your best against a team like Weibo, they'll snap your neck. So I like the way Weibo played. It's just for the finals, it's very hard for me to see a way that BLG loses, because I mean, BLG already 3-0'd Weibo, and it just feels like there's some really big mismatches. Like, 369 is a player that he's extremely solid, he's extremely good, but he's not going to shit on you the same way Bin will shit on you. And when you saw that first Breathe versus Bin matchup, like, Bin really put it all up inside Breathe. So it was fucked up, man. It was a fucked up way to go about things. And then also, if you look at how BLG has been playing, BLG has been extremely clean. It's like they've removed a lot of their variants. Like, the reason why you didn't feel great about BLG during the split is of all like the random game ones they would drop, the horrible mistakes that people were making. I mean, there was the one where like On just flashed into the turret for no reason. It's like, what the fuck is going on? Are we trolling? Like, this is just like disgusting level play from a team that should be the best team in LPL. Yeah. And now that they've started to tighten things up, they have more of an identity with Wei. They play in a much less confined style than before. It felt like before the game really was only about bot lane, but now they don't have to be playing only pushing bots. I mean, now Elk is playing things like Ziggs, for example. They can play neutral bot lanes. They can still play to dive. They can play to cover. They can play just top side. They can do a bunch of different things now with Wei, because he's such a smart jungler when it comes to pathing and how he views the map, that the team has become a lot scarier in my mind. So BLG is elevated, whereas I don't really see how, like, Weibo, even if Weibo played at their peak, how they could cross the line and beat BLG.
Yamato, you said earlier in the show, it feels good when when G2 of the past would peak at the right time. I mean, that's what BLG feel like, right? This is a super team that is playing like the super team should right before Worlds. On the opposite side, you had Weibo, who's surprising people, and you look down that roster, you're like, it's not that bad. Like, this is a pretty good team. Tarzan, Light, Zhaohu. Like, again, these are guys that have been there as a great player before, and now have the opportunity to do something weird, maybe crazy, and take a championship away from Billy. How do you see this?
I think the main thing for me is in terms of the evolution of Weibo and the players that stand out. Like, I think, unfortunately, it's just in the wrong positions in terms of where we're at in the meta. I think there's a lot of arguments, in my opinion. I think Light has been the best performing AD carry in the world. Plain and simple, in this meta of Misfortune, Ezreal, Ashe, Jhin. I think that's just for him. I think in a world where like a player like Viper, Ruler, Jackie Love, Elk, even, they have been very, very inconsistent in their performance, because the role of an AD has been very unique. You play a lot in isolation, you're on mid, and in terms of how the meta and the macro has progressed, is that the jungle and support, they basically contest sides super, super heavily at all times, and make sure that there's like a 3v3, and to always be on point if the enemy mismatches, that you're ready to pressure turrets. Often we see these situations where there's like map trades, just because jungle support swing all the way, and these AD carries can play in isolation. And I think that's where like you see like a player like Jackie Love, even Ruler, even like Elk, like get caught, and they feel kind of out of sorts because they are not, at the same center of focus. And I feel like Light has been very, very elegant through this. I think that he's played in this meta, like this is his meta. And I think it's cool because this is a player that has been like hovering in top 4, like always. He's been insanely like consistent, but this is a moment where I think that he really, really took a big step forward in terms of making a claim. I always have this conversation about the 7 AD carry demons. I feel like now I can finally say that Light is clearly an 8th, in terms of like the AD carries that are, respected worldwide. I think Tarzan has been fantastic too, but I think the main concern for like facing up against Billy, I think the evolution in terms of how they play, I think that On is the sharpest support in the world in terms of knowing where to be, where he needs to be, understanding dives, understanding tempo. It's like every death that On has is an opportunity. I think he's insanely sharp. And the last time they played up against each other, he made Crisp look bad in terms of just understanding where he needs to be. I think Knight as a player too, I think it's easy during the regular season to be like, oh, Knight is kind of sloppy, he's kind of chilling, but when playoffs ramps up, he kind of just wins. He just kind of dominates. So I think if you like go for matchup, I just think Knight against Xiaohu, I clearly favor Knight. I think Bin against Breathe, clearly favor Bin, and then just On against Crisp. And in terms of how On and Wei play now the map together in terms of how they progress, it feels like Billy can play, you know, both ways. It's like the last time we saw that series, we had the bloody game 3 that we saw, but at the same time we saw also the slow games, the grind outs, and kind of, you know, how they manage side in terms of pushing deep. I think that they've just kind of mastered things. And I don't want to go so far to say that right now, like, they are going to win the World Championship. But in terms of recent form, it's like Gen.G, they haven't started the playoffs yet, so they have a lot more to show, of course. But Billy's form right now gets me really fucking excited for the World Championship, because they look more like Gen.G than Gen.G does in those games where they play like very slow and controlled and push really fucking deep waves. So it's like Billy right now are looking very, very scary, because in the past they were always like one gear. They were very good at that, but it made them predictable. And that's what kind of made them fall against, of course, Gen.G at MSI in that finals.
Yep. Dom, when you look at this BLG team, what more do they need to show here against Weibo in the finals to solidify being the de facto #1 squad going into Worlds?
I mean, I think about how, I think if they show exactly what they did in the first series, I think that's good enough. I think it depends on how Gen.G actually looks, right? Like that would be I think that Gen.G is the team that solidifies themselves as #1 if Gen.G plays a really good playoffs. Like if they stomp Dom1, they look like Hanwha Life beats T1 or something, and then they look considerably better than Hanwha Life. They go into the finals, they like just look like they're a level up on all the other teams in the LCK. Then
T1's gonna make finals. So that's just what's gonna happen, probably.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, if that happens, then I think then you've got a different situation, right? Like then Gen.G will automatically be everyone's #1 going into Worlds. But I think BLG have pretty much like they've got that solid #2 seed. Whereas before, if like at least I feel like they've got the #2 seed, because before I felt like they were sloppy enough, and you know you didn't really know how good they were, that if you know T1 played extremely well, you'd be like, oh, maybe Korea has the 1 and 2 coming into Worlds. But I think that now BLG has like kind of solidified themselves in my mind as like top 2. I don't really think, I mean, obviously if Hanwha Life wins or something, I might change my opinion, but I just feel like the competition that there's been in the LPL and how they've progressed is like pretty much all you could ask for a team from a team. They've actually just got better at a lot of the points in the game that they were deficient at previously.
Yeah. Okay. You've said earlier, very difficult to find the world where Weibo can find the success. What is the strategy? If you're Weibo and you're drafting, where are you trying to focus here against BLG, Dom?
Jungle. I mean, Tarzan just they need to have a situation where, you know, when Wei is playing the Maokai or something, you're getting a Lilia or you're getting a Brand or you're getting a Tarzan Nidalee, and he just takes over the game because Wei is sacrificing. I mean, he is playing like a good cerebral jungler, which when you're playing these tank junglers is giving up camps in order to make sure that your game is stable and your lanes are in conditions that will allow them to be strong later on. And the counterplay to that is obviously just having Tarzan come in and take all of his jungle camps whenever he is like over posturing or whenever he is playing this consistent style, because BLG has kind of became predictable in the way where now it's like you can expect them to make what the right play is, whereas before they would just kind of flip a lot of stuff, or they would just take a fight that didn't even look like it should be good, but they would win it because they had just hands advantage and they were just mega Chinese. Now they have like some level of predictability in their gameplay because they're doing the right thing, so to speak, a lot of the time. And yeah, Tarzan needs to understand that that's how the games most likely will be and capitalize on it.
Yamato, same question to you. Tarzan the only way? You're the one that said there's more things to talk about here about potentially this Weibo squad.
I think Weibo, if there's a way that I would describe him, I think that it's like I feel like Wei plays through the lanes while the lanes at Weibo's best play for Tarzan's momentum. So there's many times where he's very, very sharp at understanding Raptor spawns, Grob spawns, and when they have windows to pressure that it works out super, super well. I think the main curiosity for me is just how Crisp will find a way to match what On brings to the table. I think Rel, like the LEC was kind of right when it came to the Rel. I guess Leona got a nerf, but like Rel is looking super strong. I think champions that really, cement you as the stronger jungle support duo when it comes to like contesting camps, I think is going to be the crucial part, because I think that Light is very, very good at playing in isolation. And I think this is where Elk is a little bit worse. And I think the main thing that they were lacking is just how Crisp open on the map. Like many times there's a fight on top side, Crisp open on mid, showed on vision, and this just can't happen. And I think if they challenge the pool early and maybe pick up Leona early, where the enemy team likes to drop support, where they like maybe invite Klest Renata, play Alisa sometimes, I think this is where maybe there's an opportunity. I think Weibo need to have a very strong jungle support and try to pressure through this dynamic, because I think that can bleed into everything else. But as long as On plays as good as he does, I think it looks super, super difficult for anything else to happen, because I think just On is just always first. And I think that's so scary when Bilibili have very, very strong solo laners, way better solo laners. So I think that's where there is maybe an hint of opportunity. But even that, as I say it, it feels almost unbelievable that that's going to happen.
So then here's a coach's question, because I usually ask one, or like, a coaching experience or something like that. If let's say BLG let something through, like where here's a solo lane that you could potentially abuse, and you're on red side. So a solo lane that you can abuse, or you can ban it and play standard and stick with the same strategy of like empowering Tarzan. I don't know whether it be like, okay, you have to pick between Rumble and something else, and you're hoping that they take something else and you get Rumble, like whatever is higher prio than that. Do you go about, after like planning, like, okay, we're gonna play through Tarzan, but now this Rumble's fucking open? Like, how do you go about deciding that through your decision tree? Is that what you think? Do you bring that up? Do you let the players bring it up? Do you follow the what you have prepared?
I think it depends on how far gone you are, It's like, assuming now you're playing in a final, it's like at this point, if you're not ready to pivot into like a Rumble case and play like a Rumble Lilia or something like this, because you can pair it still with APs. I think I just reference back to what Dom said. It's like Tarzan plays everything, and he plays it so fucking good, It's like I like, it kind of brings me back to how Dom describes Inspired. I feel like Tarzan is that in a much more difficult league. It's like you have the occasional like mistake or blunder from Tarzan, but we have this running joke. It's like when Tarzan dies once, and he's gonna carry the game. It's like he always dies, and then he gets the MVP of the match. It's like Tarzan is insanely sharp. So I think that they have the capacity to pivot. I think that like Rumble, those specific cases, I think Rumble is such an extreme example. But I think in regards to everything else, I think there are even trades that you can do. It's like, oh, you don't want to pick the Koki when Lucian is open? That's very fair and reasonable, because that was a great Lucian. Like they have like decision trees they can kind of go out on. I think the main one is just Rumble is a little bit too extreme to even bargain or negotiate with.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, Dom, just because we've seen Bin fist both sides of almost every matchup. But is there one that you would take against him?
No, I mean,
same thing with Knight. Like, same thing with Knight. You'd probably be more likely to do Knight, but I just want to start with Ben first.
No, I mean, I just think he's comprehensively better. I think he's just comprehensively better. Like, he can play tank matchups better. He can play like when he plays Renekton into Gnar, he'll win both sides of that matchup versus Breathe like all day. He just spaces better. Like, he's just a better player. So like all these tight situations, he always squeezes the extra out of. Like, that's the thing about Bin is, I mean, for me, I talk about Global League of Legends. I think Chovy is like the most talented player in the world, League of Legends wise. Like, I'm not even if we did best players. I mean, we could do best players as well, but if we just went off raw talent, it's like Chovy's number one. I think Ben is the most talented top laner in the entire world. Like the way that this guy can play everything, like all the time, like he can play range champions, melee champions. His spacing is so good. The way that he plays carry versus carry is good. The mind games within the lane is top tier. I mean, like almost all aspects of top lane, this guy is probably the scariest person to play against for like anyone worldwide. Like who would you want to play? Who would you want to play versus less than playing versus Bin in a really big deciding match if you're a top laner worldwide? Like this guy is just as good as it gets when it comes to like the fear that he'll instill in you because of, even from a drafting perspective, all the different things that he can pick and how he can play. So I mean, I think he's just the best top laner in LPL. I think he's the best top laner in the world right now.
Well, that's what Breathe has to fucking play into. So good luck, Breathe.
He got fucking clapped last time. Like Breathe has been good this playoffs, except for when he played against Bin. When he got played against Bin, he got giga exposed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, oh, no, not clippable. But I just feel like unless Gen G pull out and just pull out some very aggressive comps, like watching BLG do what they do during this split has been fascinating. It's been fascinating, and just yeah, like I'm just worried that we got a little too slow in the summer split. We got a little too OG LCK in the summer split. Hands good, yes, but I like hands good, fast thinking. And we got a little, we're just better than everyone else from Gen G and some of the other teams as well. They were playing some games and were like, you shouldn't have won that. Just, you know.
I mean, there's a lot of Gen G games. I mean, they just have like enough of a buffer built up where it's like you're not going to really judge them until this playoffs. Like I'm watching LCK, and if I wanted to like super nitpick, there could be a bunch of things where you could be like, Gen G's early game is really sus. Like, why are they playing like they're picking all this Nidalee, and the Nidalee's not even ahead in the game, and they're like relying on coming back. Like the game versus T1, for example, is another example of a game where it's like, wow, they're really like falling way too far behind. If you do this versus a Chinese team, you'll probably lose. If you do this versus like an elite BLG, like you will lose. But I'm not viewing them through that lens because we saw what they could do at MSI. I'm waiting for, okay, playoffs patch is going to hit. This is when everything's going to ramp up. Their ambitions are to be the best team in the world at World. So I'm going to give them the buffer until at least LCK playoffs before I start like really scrutinizing all their gameplay. Because their early games, I mean, when was the last time like Gen G stomped a team early game? Like actually like stomped them, like fucking like dick them down. Like it's just like 10K advantage at like 15 minutes and the game is just like over. Like,
yeah, that just hasn't happened.
It's just like, they just don't stomp teams like that, which they could. Like, I thought like, yeah.
No, I just want to say, I gave you that statistic that they didn't get like a first blood in like the last 14 games that they played, which is a crazy stat line considering they win every game. It's completely mental. It just seems like they're having fun, right? It's like they're playing like Draven, because probably like they could smack everyone on the forehead if they just played like, what is it, like 37 games of Koki Tristana. But we had like Draven that is like complete ass. It's like Lucian that he played early on, you know, before the nerfs that looked not so good too. Seems like Chovy was like having fun. Like it seems like this team, definitely I'm with you, they just have like a buffer. It's like this playoffs is now starting. LCK is like giga late in starting, so they definitely have like way more important games to show what they're capable of.
All right, this is you're stressing me out here, Yamato, just because your stat that you pulled out. Why is it privated? Okay, your stat that you pulled out here for Gen G, they played they played my bros. Did the bros really get first blood that game? I need to go check now.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Like I'm semi pulling it out of my ass. I'm hoping that my memory serves me correctly. I'm sure.
I mean, maybe it was like, oh, yeah, there's first blood in game one. All right, hold on. I can't. But they died. Like they traded the kills, which is why. Let's see. They traded the kills here. Oh wait, no.
Oh no, they did get a kill against. Wait, is this correct? They got a kill against Bro, but that was that in the last 14 games 1 month ago?
No. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong.
Week 12 or 14. I don't know if I was counting the last series or no.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. I wasn't putting you on the spot here, but it's just the fact that, you know, that team being that dominant, having a stretch where they didn't do it, makes a lot of sense. But all right. Well, there you go. We still were able to compare a little bit of LCK here as we dove into the matchup and the small windows that Weibo have to defeat Bin and the rest of BLG towards their title and the #1 seed. The stakes in this matchup are if Weibo win, obviously they qualify. BLG also will qualify as the 2 seed, which then would knock down Top Esports to the gauntlet. If Weibo lose, highly likely, then Weibo have accumulated enough points to be the #3 seed, I believe, in the gauntlet, which will give them 2 opportunities to qualify for Worlds. So again, still stakes on the line here. It was the same thing. Again, congratulations, Mad Lions. Forgot to say that earlier. I don't know how many of our Spanish-speaking fans are still here, but congratulations, Mad Lions, qualifying to Worlds as well. Okay. And FlyQuest. There we go. I was like, I'm missing one. FlyQuest also qualifying on in. Congratulations to Papa Smithy and the gang. See y'all in Europe. Okay. With that, we're done. It was the show before the storm, as we will have multiple finals in the books by this point. I think LCS and LCK will still have theirs to go for next week's show. These guys will have your coverage the whole time on the sack. They also have a new sack down that just came out with everyone's favorite AD carry, Tristana. Maybe if you like craziness, it's Carzy who will be on the show. Give me some like high level highlights here, Dom. What did he drop?
It said gender fluidity is discussed. We discussed gender fluidity. Mid laners doing ecstasy. Alcoholism and ditching scrims and getting blackout drunk in different countries. So there you go.
The burger pizza diet as well. Classics.
Yep. Burger pizza diet. All right. I mean, shit. I feel like I just signed up for, I don't know, one of those other podcasts, like the Joe Rogan Experience. There you go. Bam. Which. Yeah. We got that type of shit here over at Last Free Nation. Last Free Nation culture coming at you as they are going through, I think it's shitty rom-coms right now. They went through 500 Days of Summer with, that's Jordan, Gordon Levitt. I can't remember his name. But yeah, Gordon Levitt. And then Joseph, thank you. Joseph Gordon-Levitt in that one. Minka Kelly at the very end. So fine at that time. Oh, wow.
Sorry to interrupt you. You asked me about guilty pleasure movie the last time, and I answered Snatch, which is not a guilty pleasure movie, but I thought about it. Mine is Pick of Destiny, the Tenacious D. Very shitty movie, but I love it.
Yeah, Jack Black.
I love that movie.
Yeah, okay. There you go. All right. Back at it again. If you haven't done it before, let us know what your favorite guilty pleasure movie is. I'm looking at you, G2 social media entity. Let us know what it is. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you guys next week as we wrap up some of the finals across the world.